shit about him winning the Intercontinental Championship and what I feel about it. Um, I recorded a whole video before, then I found that Uh, it didn't record, but my thoughts of it. It's shitty. You know what I mean? They buried Dominic Mysterio for nothing. Uh, the guy was fucking over since WrestleMania 41. One of the most over baby faces that, I mean, well, he's not a baby face really. He's a tweener. But come on, his his kayfabe father is about to have a birthday. I mean, not a birth. Eddie Guerrero Day, an anniversary of Eddie Guerrero's passing in 2005, is coming up, and you know, and basically Dom's character is based on Eddie Guerrero, for obvious reasons. We all remember Eddie Guerrero. uh, was heavily involved with a feud with Dom's actual biological father, Rey Mysterio Jr., both in WCW and in the WWE. And when Dom turned on his dad in 2021, he developed this character. And you know, it's no secret when it comes to me, I didn't like Dom. You know, Dom first came into WWE. I thought he was a nepo baby. I thought he was this you know, Rey Mysterio's son. You know, kind of the George Goulas, Eric Watts, David Flair esque character. Garrett Bischoff comes to mind in TNA. David Flair in WCW, Eric Watts in WCW. And I thought he wasn't gonna last. You know what I mean? Like they immediately put him in a tag team with his dad. They won the tag team. He turned on him in 2022. By the way, it was Clash at the Castle, 2022. But I thought it wasn't gonna last. You know, I thought, you know, he's gonna be in the company for a while and then he's gonna just fade away. You know what I mean? But then, you know, as he became a heel, they did the whole Dirty Dom thing. He joined the Judgment Day. And I'm like, okay, he's starting to grow on me. And then after a while, I'm like, yo, this kid is going to be one of the greatest WWE superstars of all time because of the reactions he was getting. He was the one, Dominic Mysterio, was the one who got Rhea Ripley over. People say that Rhea got him over. Kind of, they put him with Rhea, but his heat got Rhea over. You know, and you know, now that WWE purchased AAA, he's been doing great things with AAA. He's become the champion of AAA, and you know, he's become a star in his own right. And for WWE to pull the rug out from under him for a cheap pop, because that's really all it was, guys, was a cheap pop, a reaction, a fucking reaction. Like my friend Sean said, all Triple H's is for the cheap pops. You know, just these moments. Hey, what's going on, Matt? You know, just these moments that Triple H puts, you know, Triple H craves. You know, AJ Lee coming back, boom, that's a moment. Cena turning heel, boom, that's a moment. Brock Lesnar coming back at SummerSlam, boom, that's a moment. All these moments, but they have no follow-up. Like with AJ Lee, for example, we haven't seen AJ Lee on TV since WrestlePalooza. Like, I mean, granted, Seth is out, so they can't do the whole mixed tag situation. But what about an intercontinental title match against Becky Lynch? This is about wrestling. This is a wrestling live. This is basically about John Cena capturing the Intercontinental Championship on Raw last Monday from Dominic Mysterio. So if you're a wrestling fan, stick around. But, and just my criticism of, it. I feel like Triple H, he never has any follow through on his booking. Hey David, what's going on? We're talking about Dominic Mysterio losing the Intercontinental Championship to John Cena. What is your opinion? The wrestling world is abuzz about the new Intercontinental Champion, John Cena. I feel like it didn't make any sense. Because David says he's the Nikola Ceausescu of WWE. Yeah, he is kind of a dictator, but his decisions don't make sense. You know, ESPN has been losing money since WWE moved over there. Netflix has been losing money since WWE moved over there. Triple H has no idea how to handle uh, the booking responsibilities because he just goes for these moments. You know what I mean? And no follow through with any of these moments. AJ Lee comes back, that's a moment. Brock comes back, that's a moment. Cena turns heel, that's a moment. But look at the follow through for all these quote unquote moments. Now Nikki Bella turns heel. Because that's another thing that happened on Raw. Nikki Bella turned on Stephanie Vaquer. You know, after they had a tag team match, she grabs the belt, she hits Stephanie Vaquer. And David says John Cena's turn heel was stupid. We found out, yeah, you're right. We found out that The Rock originally wanted Cody Rhodes to turn heel, but even the way that was set up, your Nikki Bella, even the way that was like no setup. Triple H just like the way he books is he throws everything out there and he gets random shit, and whatever gets a reaction on social media for that immediate reaction, whether it's Brock's return, whether it's Cena's heel turn, whether it's whatever, you know what I mean, he'll go for it. You know what I mean? Like, none of these stories have any build to them. None of them. None of the major storylines right now have any build, really. You know what I mean? They're SmackDown is doing the Who Attack the whole Who Attack Jacob Fatu storyline. So like it's like a who done it storyline. Like who attacked Jacob Fatu? Yeah, Davis. You know, and like if they go with the obvious, like Kevin Owens, if Kevin Owens, gets cleared medically, and then Kevin Owens is the one, okay, he hates the bloodline, or somebody like Drew McIntyre, they take Drew McIntyre off TV for a while, and he gets the position of, that he was the one that attacked Jacob. That's gonna suck, in my opinion. Like, maybe they're going for a Cody Rhodes heel turn, because that's what a lot of people want. They want a Cody heel turn because they're tired of babyface Cody. You know what I mean? They were tired of him in AEW as a babyface. They want him to, give it a go as a heel. They were tired of him in AEW as a babyface. They moved him. He moved to WWE, and they kept him as a babyface. He had a pretty good run, but like fans now in WWE want him to turn heel. you know. And why not? People say Braun Breaker is not ready for a main event run yet. And then, David, what do you think? How do you think Cena's run in WWE is going to end? Who do you think is going to be the guy that is going to be his last opponent? Many people are saying Gunther. They're thinking Gunther. So that would make Gunther retiring two legends within one calendar year, Goldberg and John Cena. I don't know. I like Gunther, but he's had a. But yeah, I would love to see that. Yeah, that'd be a hell of a closer. Try to get Batista back in the game, because Cena's took on everybody in his greatest hits besides Edge and Chris Jericho, and they're in AEW. But some people are saying that Chris Jericho uh, might come back, so that might be the last opponent. Yeah, yeah, David's absolutely right. They were the Macho Man. He said that John Cena and Batista made Ruthless Aggression era. They were the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan of the Ruthless Aggression era. The Rock and Stone Cold Steve. What Macho Man and Hulk Hogan were in the Golden Age, and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were in the New Generation, and Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin were in the Attitude Era. Batista and John Cena were that for the Ruthless Aggression era. They both won their world titles, their respective world titles, for the first time on the same night at WrestleMania 21. And they've only really wrestled, that I can remember, on big shows twice: SummerSlam 2008 and WrestleMania 26 in 2010. So that would be cool. Orton, that's been done to death. I mean, it's sad that Randy Orton and John Cena never had a WrestleMania match together. They've had a bunch of matches together. They even unified the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship against one another, but they've never had a proper WrestleMania feud together. But Orton was Orton. Yeah. Well, that's what. Yeah, I mean, he was a politician for sure. He positioned himself. Triple H did. Triple H. during the Attitude Era was not even that big of a star. You know what I mean? Like Mick Foley was bigger than him. Kane was times even bigger than him. Uh, the Undertaker for sure. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. He didn't have he didn't have the mainstream exposure, but those guys left. Stone Cold Steve Austin retired. The Rock, went to Hollywood. Mick Foley left. Kane became a mid Carter, and Undertaker went on to do other things. Uh, then Triple H had his reign of terror in 2003, 2003 to 2005, and WWE viewership dropped when Triple H was on top with Evolution. You know what I mean? Because he would come out, and he would do these boring ass promos. He would have the same old fucking matches, burying everybody from Scott Steiner to Booker T to Kevin Nash, everybody from WCW, just burying everybody. And it's like, okay, even when he lost to Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20, it was like, okay, a year later, he's back in the main event with the World Heavyweight Championship. And I think they're trying to make they're trying to make Seth Rollins the new Triple H. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't just a gimmick. Like when Seth Rollins turned on the Shield and joined the Authority, where he became like Triple H's apprentice. That's for real. Like they they push hard with Seth. You know what I mean? They try to make him like the next Hunter, and Becky Lynch like him, Becky Lynch, the new power couple of WWE, just like Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. But it's forced. You know what I mean? Like Seth is a good wrestler. He's had some pretty good matches, but he doesn't have the star power. Like when you saw him up there, they had the Vision. He had the Vision. Him, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed, and he couldn't lead a faction. Like he wasn't believable as a faction leader. Same thing when he was in 2020 leading as the Monday Night Messiah. It was like this guy is not really that big of a star. You know what I mean? The number one and number two, in my opinion, is Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes of this era. Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, not Seth Rollins. He's like a Triple H. He's like a number three. Like he's the guy they get if they can't get the other two. You know what I'm saying? Like when they couldn't get Austin or Rock, they needed somebody to work with either Austin or Rock, and they couldn't get the other one, they just throw Triple H in there. You know what I mean? Same like Ultimate Warrior. That's what Ultimate Warrior's role was in the golden era, in the 80s and early 90s. He would, if you didn't have Macho Man or Hulk Hogan, you throw Ultimate Warrior in there. You know, I'm still waiting. The feud I'm waiting, like Randy Orton's last feud, like when they closed the door on Randy Orton's chapter, I'm waiting for it to be Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. They have a history, and since Cody's been back in the company, their paths haven't really crossed all that much on opposite sides in the ring. They have a history with legacy. We're in the same faction, and in a way, Randy Orton was a mentor to Cody, to young Cody, and to Ted DiBiase Jr. Fortunately, it's funny because in Legacy, back in 2009, in Legacy, the guy that they were banking on, the guy that they thought was going to be the star, they put him in the Marine, was Ted DiBiase Jr. And he ended up leaving wrestling and going into the religious business with his dad, and getting in all kinds of trouble, like in the state of Mississippi with his dad. But they weren't banking on Cody really Rhodes to be the guy. But look, now he's the man. But I feel like a heel turn is necessary for Cody just to freshen him up a little. A heel turn can do wonders for a character. Um, for example, Dominic Mysterio. I mean, there's an example of a guy that, like I said, when he came into the company, people just looked at him like this Nepo baby, Rey Mysterio's son. He was only there because he was Rey Mysterio's son. And like now he's coming to his own. Same thing happened with The Rock. Same thing happened with Stephanie McMahon. You know, in 1999 when they introduced Stephanie McMahon as an on-screen character, she was just somebody getting abducted by the Undertaker and the Ministry of Darkness. Then, she turns heel and joins with Triple H, and that duo, Triple H and her, become iconic. And she kind of gives him the air of legitimacy because Triple H, even though he turned heel on DX in 1999 at WrestleMania 15, it was like he didn't have he didn't have what it he didn't have anything that stood out until he formed the alliance with he was still like in DX's shadow, because when you leave a faction, it's kind of hard for you, especially the faction is successful, to get out from under that faction. Sometimes you never really do. Roman Reigns struggled with that. After the Shield broke up, Roman Reigns did not develop his own persona outside of the Shield. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose did. Dean Ambrose had the lunatic fringe. Seth Rollins had the architect and stuff like that with the authority. And but Roman did not. And it was like that for Triple H for a while until he hooked up with Stephanie McMahon. So David's absolutely right. Both on screen and behind the scenes, Triple H always knew how to position himself in the right places. When he first came to WWE in 1995, he knew to hook up with the guys that were popular. Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, the Clique backstage, and to position himself with those guys because they were on top, back then in the New Generation era. A very smart politician, and now he's literally a politician. Like now he's cool with Trump. You see him making speeches in the White House. What I'm saying? Handling the physical fitness part of the administration's initiative. So um, Triple H, you can't hate on him. But as far as his booking, no, I don't agree with it. It's lame. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you got to tag out. It's just like a match. You got to tag out sometimes and give somebody else a shot. One of the things, like I said, that made the Memphis territory, Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler's territory in Memphis, Tennessee, so dynamic and became the only territory to outlast the national expansion of Jim Crockett Promotions and the WWF in the 80s, was that Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler rotated creative responsibilities. So if Jerry Jarrett got tired, he tagged in Jerry Lawler. If Jerry Lawler got tired, he tagged in Jerry Jarrett. You know what I mean? They alternated, and there were different perspectives. Sometimes that can be healthy. Now, in certain cases, for example, in WCW, in the late 90s and early 2000s, the latter years of WCW, that wasn't the case because, you had a rotating door of bookers, of Kevin Sullivan, Vince Russo, Ed Ferrara, people of that ilk. And it was like WCW didn't know where they were coming or going. So you need a clear vision, but you also you can have variety too. within a limited scope, just like anything else. You know, you always want to be on the same page, but a diversity of ideas is good. You know, I mean, just like government, real government. You know, you want to rotate leaders and people in power, because you have the same people in power all the time. You always have the same stale opinions, the same old stale routines, and you stagnate growth. So it works the same way in business, in the private sector, as it does in the public sector. In this case, wrestling. You know, but you want to have somebody captaining the ship with a clear leadership, and I don't think Triple H was ever really ready for that. You know what I mean? And the way he became a head of WWE was under the whole Vince McMahon situation. Like, he anticipated one day that he would be in charge of WWE, I think, because Shane really didn't want anything to do with it, even though Shane came back. You know, in 2016, Shane came back to the company, and people were like, oh, well, see, when Vince finally does either die or steps down, uh, Shane's going to take over and not Triple H and Stephanie. But that didn't happen because some of the ideas, I think what happened with Shane McMahon's second run was a lot of the ideas that Shane was coming up with sucked. You know, and especially the way he booked the 2022 Royal Rumble. I mean, that was infamous, and that was just like his dad had to let him go for because of that. I would love to see James Dixon has the Titan Sinking series, the Titan series on the backstage machinations of WWE in the 90s. He has like 95 Titan Sinking and two others on 96 and 97 respectively. But I would love to see a backstage expose of these latter years, like the last years of the Vince McMahon era, because it's sort of like seeing, you know, Bob Woodward's books when it comes to politics. You know what I mean? Like, you're seeing, you know, palace intrigue, what's going on behind the scenes. And a lot I know is going on behind the scenes with the McMahons and Triple H and TKO coming in and assuming power, like between 2020 and 2025, like these last 5 years. I would love to see somebody document that. Like, Keith Elliott Greenberg has a book on wrestling during the COVID era that I'm currently reading right now, which is crazy, because it was a crazy time for wrestling during the COVID era, because wrestling was the only really form of entertainment that really existed, you know, throughout 2020. Like, WrestleMania 36 is one of the most unique events in history. So when I'm finished reading that book, we'll definitely do a review on that, guys. But as far as this Dominic Mysterio John Cena stuff, man, this is bullshit. It didn't need to happen. It's a cheap pop. Like, why does John Cena need to be the Intercontinental Champion right now when he's about to retire? You know, it's like, okay, he's about to hang it up, but you want to give him the Intercontinental Championship. Doesn't really make sense to me. But anyway, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see when my next video is coming out. Peace.